Yo, you're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Camuno here, and I'm here with my co-host Marlon Walls, and we're back for episode 5 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
I'm really excited, man. Ready for another episode. Ready to keep on giving back to the community. How you doing, man?
Oh yeah, I'm doing good, bro. It's been real good so far. 4 episodes out, we 4 episodes in, and been getting real good feedback. So I'm definitely excited to keep pushing out this content. So y'all keep continuing to, tune in and let us know, give us feedback on everything that we putting out. What else you think we should improve? Where you think we could kind of do stuff better, or where we're doing stuff good already. I mean, feedback is only going to help us get better and allow us to put out better content for y'all. And please go, leave a rating on iTunes and or Apple Podcasts, and kind of let us know what we're doing. Because like I said, whenever y'all do, put ratings and stuff on Apple Podcasts, it lets us. It allows us to be higher in the, in the search query and reach more people and kind of just be able to help more people. So that's definitely what we're trying to do with this. So we appreciate y'all that have done that. And let's get this episode started. But yeah, today what we're talking about is, I guess I'll start with this. Last episode, we kind of talked about renting versus owning, and we gave a subjective point of view throughout the duration of that episode. And in that episode, we did mention that we wanted to, kind of give our subjective point of view on the topic at the end. But due to some technical difficulties, we didn't really get the chance to kind of do that. So we kind of want to tie this episode in by doing that, and by talking about that, our subjective point of view. The way we wanted to end last episode for this one. So Marlon, you want to introduce that and get us started with that?
Yeah, so one thing we want to make a point of from last week, because last week we talked about renting and owning and the pros and cons of each one. One thing we want you to take away from last week is understanding that neither renting or owning is considered an asset. Most people always say that when I own a home, that's my greatest asset. And we want to dispel that myth here, because by the definition of asset that we're using, asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. So if you're paying a mortgage or paying rent, those are both taking money out your pocket every month. So those are both considered liabilities in this case. So this week we want to talk to you a little bit more about how to turn your personal residence, your place of residence, your home, into an asset that makes you money every month.
Mm-hmm, definitely. That's couldn't said it better myself. That's kind of what we wanted to explain at the end of the last episode, and kind of tie that into this episode. But we didn't really get that chance to, so it's fine. Everything happens for a reason. But let's get into this episode. So one thing about this topic thing that we're talking about today, it goes, a lot of people approach this topic from the wrong perspective, I think. And one thing I want to start off by doing is just by asking, people, and I guess this isn't live, so no one can answer me live, but, just I want people to think about, if someone was to ask you, what is your biggest expense in your life, or in your, your finances, what is the biggest expense that you can reduce? Most people, they're going to say, stuff like the eating out, the miscellaneous, fun money, that kind of stuff. Maybe, I don't know, gas or stuff that's like really minuscule in the grand scheme of, where the actual hits are coming from in your budget. So in reality, though, everyone's largest expense is their housing expense, right? So your housing expense is, for majority of millennials, I mean, the rule of thumb is, they say you should only spend, a third or 30% of your income on housing, but that's not how it is today. There's been studies that have been shown. I've been doing some, research on this topic recently, and it's estimated that a lot of millennials right now are spending 45% of their income on housing. 45%. So from a third to 45%. The rule of thumb is a third, but they're spending 45%. That's nearly half of your gross income going to housing. And that's crazy. And I say millennials, but, because we're kind of they classify people that are, I guess, born from the early 80s to the mid 90s as millennials, but we were born 96. So technically speaking, we're not millennials. We're really Generation Z. But I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Because I'm always thinking about that, and it was just always something that I don't know if I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's just something that I'm always curious about. Are we a millennial or are we a Generation Z? Anyways, that has nothing to do with it. But I was just kind of wanted to. I was just thinking about that, but yeah, like I was saying, 45% of millennials' income is being spent on your housing, and the primary reason of this is pretty much, I mean, it's partly due to bad spending habits. But it's also due to the fact that that income and wages hasn't risen or increased proportionally with housing and rental prices. So, I mean, the generations previous, they were spending a less percentage of their income on housing because, it was just, it rose linearly with it, right? But now, people, it's only going to get worse. I mean, the generation after us, I think, is Generation Y. Or Gen Z is after millennials. They're going to be spending, there was estimating like over 50% of their income will be on housing in the next few years. And that's ridiculous to say that. And there was some of the statistics that I seen, I kind of want to read them or say a few of them for y'all. But they said between the ages of 22 and 29, millennials, our generation, is earning on average $206,000. You'll earn on average $206,000 between the ages of 22 and 29. So right after you graduate school and before you turn 30, you'll earn on average $206,000, and you're gonna spend $92,000 of that on rent by the time you turn 30. So that's 45% of your income. And to put that in comparison, the previous generation, Generation X, they earned in that same time period between the ages of 22 and 29 for them, they earned $202,000 from income in that time, and they spent on average $82,000 in rent between those years. So that's 41%. So you can see it's kind of decreased. And then the baby boomers, the generation before that, they earned on average $195,000 between those ages, the 22 and 29, and they only spent $71,000 of that money on rent. So you can see the wages haven't really gone down too much. Between the last three generations, it had only gone down $10K, but the amount spent on rent went up $20K, right? So it's just not rising proportionally. So the baby boomers are spending about 36%. They weren't even spending a third, but it's still like that's way better than 45%. That's a lot of money. So I mean, especially now, you pair this with like student loans and all the other stuff that all the debt that people are graduating with, and then you see why a lot of millennials aren't putting off buying houses right now. They don't even have anything to invest or save or buy a house. So it's kind of just like something that is definitely gonna have to be addressed in the future, and there's got to be a way to kind of avoid that. So, Marlon, you got something to add to that, or you want to add something?
Yeah, so when you were laying out all the percentages, it reminded me of the budget spreadsheet that I made a while back. So we plan on putting this onto the website as well for everybody to use. A budget spreadsheet will basically lay out your monthly expenses, and you'll be able to see it, like each one line item by line item. But what I want to add onto there is a pie chart, because you will be able to visually grasp where your money is going if you see exactly what section of like what category that it's going into. So like housing will have its own section, like a big piece of the pie. So you were saying 45% is what this generation is experiencing. So at 45%, that's taking up almost half of your pie chart already. And one thing it reminds me of is that people always, when you tell somebody they should save money, where do they start cutting expenses at? They will start cutting expenses on little things like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go out to happy hour for the next few days or next few weeks. I won't go out with my friends as much, so I can save money there. So you're cutting off. If you look at that on the pie chart that we make, that's like a very minuscule, probably less than 5% of where your money is actually going per month. But nobody ever wants to address the elephant in the room, the big 45% that you were just talking about. So, but I think that's the reason behind that is because nobody ever thinks to do that, but that's also very possible, and that's actually what we're doing here. So I want to go ahead.
So I just want to comment on that. So these people are cutting out, things like because you ask people what is your biggest expense or what is the biggest place you can cut expenses, and people are saying, eating out, or I won't go to happy hour, or I'm gonna not drink my coffee, or I'm gonna,
Exactly.
not do this. So they're cutting out things that are making them happy,
Right. Exactly.
in things that are like adding, some sort of, value to your life. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the return that you're getting by cutting them out is, I mean, not worth, cutting out the happiness that you're getting from that. So it's good to, if you're doing it excessively, to cut it out. But I mean, if it's something you're not indulging in, and you're just doing it here from time to time, or you get a coffee, here every once in a while, or you get your daily coffee, whatever it may be, in the grand scheme of things, let's say you're getting a $10 coffee, every couple of days, you're spending $20 a week on coffee. That's less than $100 a month. Yeah, you can cut that out, but what's that gonna really do in the grand scheme of things? That's not going to do much, right?
Exactly. Matter of fact, I'll take it a step further on that point. If you bought a $10 coffee every day throughout the month, so 30 days average for a month, you spent $300 on coffee that month. Your rent payment, I guarantee you, is higher than $300 in most areas. And I was looking over in like Cali or something, that they spend in thousands per month in just rent alone. So that cutting out your coffee, that's minuscule in comparison to cutting out your housing expense. So now I want to tie into the topic of today's podcast, which is something that we really think of as like setting yourself apart financially and able to save a lot of money moving forward, and like setting yourself probably years ahead financially. So this is a term called house hacking. This term was coined by Brandon Turner. He's the host of the Bigger Pockets podcast. And essentially what house hacking is purchasing a primary residence for the purpose of renting out portions of it in order to generate income that will offset the mortgage and other expenses that you have of owning a home. So essentially what this is doing is allowing you to be able to pocket all of the money that you would be spending on rent or your mortgage, and allowing you to be able to save it for future investments or whatever vehicle you want to go into, as far as allowing your money to make money, or just being able to have reserves, because most people don't even have that. So now, if somebody else is paying your mortgage and all your utilities, and you're not paying for anything with your house, now your house has become an asset for you because it can make you money instead of making you lose money each month. Yeah. So, Alex, you want to talk a little bit more about like the implications behind house hacking and what that is exactly?
Yeah, and I want y'all to understand what, I mean, Marlon just said when he says house hacking. This is like incredible when you grasp this concept. It's something that's been happening a long time, but it's been recently. He said Brandon Turner just put a name to it, so it's now something that's like it has a name, and it's something that people identify with now. So I mean, just think about the significance of not paying any rent. Think about that. Think about how much extra money you're going to have per month if you don't pay any rent. Think about that. Seriously, think about that. It's insane to even fathom it. And that's why whenever you ask people about where they should cut expenses, they don't ever even think about that as an option, because it's just so, it's like a unicorn pretty much. Like, what? You don't pay rent? You don't pay a mortgage or nothing? It's like, but yeah, that's the reality of it. It sounds crazy, but yes, that's true. That's what we're literally sitting here and telling you. So I kind of want to get into, some of the type of methods that people can house hack and what it entails. So the primary way of house hacking is, the traditional method of house hacking is whenever you purchase a small multifamily property and you rent out the other units. So a small multifamily property is a property that is 2 to 4 units on one lot. So you live in one of the units and you collect the rent from the other units. So if it's a duplex, you live in one side of the duplex and you collect the rent from the other side of the duplex, and that pays your mortgage. For the triplex, 3 unit, you live in one unit and you collect the rent from the other 2 units, and that pays your mortgage. And if it's a 4 unit, it's the same thing. You live in one unit and collect the rent from the other 3, and that pays down your mortgage. So this is the primary way of house hacking. A lot of people within the financial independence industry, or in the financial independence movement, they call it the FI movement. A lot of people within that do this form of house hacking. They buy a small multifamily house and rent out the other side. And the primary way that people do this, the best way to get into this kind of stuff is I mean, that's in terms of financing and that kind of stuff is with an FHA loan. So we talked about it last week, kind of what a FHA loan is and kind of some of the stipulations with it and why it is the way it is. But just to recap, that FHA loan is a 3.5% down loan. So FHA is the Federal Housing Authority that's so that they pretty much are insuring the loan through the lender that you use. So the bank is going to give you a loan and you only have to put 3.5% down, and the Federal Housing Authority or the U.S. government is gonna insure that loan with the lender. So if you default on it, their lender is gonna pay them back. So let me I want to get into an example of that's kind of the financing part in regards to getting the actual property. But I kind of want to go through a practical example of what a house hack would look like for somebody, a simple house hack. So okay, let's say that you have you find a property that you're interested in, a multifamily property, a 3-unit, a triplex, a 3-unit property for $300,000. So you get the property at $300,000. You use a FHA loan, 3.5% down. So 3.5% down of $300,000 is $10,500. So that's how much money you're gonna have to bring to closing, and then you pay your closing costs. So you get this loan, let's say you get it at 4% interest from the lender. So with that, okay, so I'm gonna break down your mortgage payment now. I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna be paying monthly. So with that, your principal and interest, remember we talked about PITI last week, PITI. Your principal and interest on the loan is gonna be about $1,400. Yeah, your principal is the part you pay back on the loan, and the interest is the amount you pay for borrowing the loan. The taxes on this property are gonna be about $500. Depends on where you are, that's gonna vary.
Now, is that monthly or yearly?
That's monthly.
Okay.
So that's about $500. Then you're gonna have this is a Texas example. That's why it's so hard.
Right. Yeah, because I'm like 500. I think mine like 1,000 for the whole year.
Yeah, good luck. You're not getting that in Texas.
But yeah, taxes in Texas are just a lot higher, and because I think he talked about that last week too, about how Texas has its independent school districts that you pay for through property taxes, and Texas doesn't have a state tax either.
Yeah. So, so we had the $500 in taxes, and then you got the $400 per month in insurance. Obviously, this is going to vary wherever you are, but so we have $1,400 for P&I, $500 for taxes, $400 for insurance. So that equates to $2,300 a month, right? So that's your mortgage payment. You got to come up with $2,300 every month. Now you're probably thinking, man, where am I going to get $2,300 from? Well, here's the beauty of house hacking. You rent the other 2 units out. Let's say they rent for $1,200 each. Let's say they're here. Let's say each of them are 2-bedroom, 2 baths, or 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And you can rent each of the units. They're worth, whenever they're turnkey fixed up, they're worth $1,200 in rent, each of them. So that's $2,400 a month from both of those units combined. So you live in the third unit. The other 2 units pay you $2,400 a month, and you use that money to pay your mortgage of $2,300 a month. And what do? You walk away making $100 a month. So you're essentially cash flowing on the property. You just purchased an asset that you are making money on by doing nothing. You're literally doing nothing to make that money. You just live there and you make that money. Incredible, huh? It's insane. So that's essentially.
It's mind blowing. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah. So that's the power of house hacking. Like, it's something that people are really doing, and me and Marlon are actually doing this too. I'll break down how mine looks actually right now, just for full transparency.
I think we should probably go through our personal examples just to show people like a physical example of like how this is actually feasible and show real life examples. So yeah.
Okay, no doubt. So for me, I bought my house is I'm in San Antonio, Texas. Just so y'all know. So when I say these prices, just think it's relative to here. But my property, I bought it for $160,000. It's a single family house with a converted garage. So the house itself is a 3-bedroom, 2 bath, and then the garage is converted into an apartment. So what I do is I bought the house for $160,000. I used the FHA loan, 3.5% down. So I came to the closing with, a little less than $10K plus closing costs, and that's essentially all I needed to get into the house. So I I fixed up my side. I fixed up the other side so I can increase the rent. So over there on the other side, after I got it last summer, we're recording this May 2019. So I got it in August or I closed on it in August, but I really was working on it all summer of 2018. So I fixed up my side, or the other side. I pretty much put in, I painted it. I put in brand new flooring. Painted all the cabinets and, did a lot of cosmetic stuff just to, increase the value and get more out of the rent. So I did all that last summer, and now I'm essentially living here rent free. So the mortgage on this house is $1,220, and I rent out the other side for $1,345. So every month I'm making $115 by doing nothing. I just literally sit here. I mean, I just live here. I come here every day, and this is where I live. I live in the garage apartment over here, and I did kind of put in work into I did renovate the garage apartment. I redid all the kitchen, the bathroom, painted it, redid a lot of stuff just because it was beat up. But we'll get into that in another episode on buying dilapidated properties and why that's the best thing to do. So that's kind of how my house hack looks. It's just really simple. It's technically is the traditional method because I classify the house as a duplex now, just because I could rent it out this side as another unit. So it is technically a duplex, but it also fits into another category that we'll get into in a little later. So Marlon, you kind of want to explain yours now?
Yeah. So I just wanted to preface this by saying, don't be discouraged if you can't find a duplex, triplex, or quadplex, because those are typically not very abundant in most areas. Some areas are better than others. But like for me personally, when I was looking here in Lafayette, Indiana, I probably saw maybe 2 quadplexes, and they were in such bad condition and overpriced to where I was like, no, I'm not willing to take that on as my first time investment. But I do want to say, don't be discouraged, because an alternative way for house hacking is actually buying a single family house and renting out the bedrooms in there as well. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So when I told my agent that I didn't want to look at any more multiplexes because they were just not abundant, and like I said, they were all overpriced, I said we should start looking for single family houses with at least 4 bedrooms and 2,000 square feet. That way I knew that I would have enough space to be able to live my life as normal as possible. And I would have enough bedrooms to compensate for the rent payment. So what I did was I found one that was far enough away from school, because I'm in a college town. I want to be a little bit far away so I wouldn't have to worry about any undergraduate tenants. Nothing against undergrads, but they typically want to party a little bit more. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I want mine to be an investment, not a job. That's a big thing about buying an investment. You don't want to buy yourself another job. Yeah. So just going back into like the numbers and stuff, I paid $129 for it. That was the purchase price of the home.
$129,000.
$129. Yeah, I'm so used to saying the $129. Well, $129,000 is the purchase of the home. I put 5% down using a normal conventional loan, 5% interest, and now I'm paying $834.58. That's just the exact number. I pay it every month for my mortgage. That mortgage includes your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So all that together equals $834.58. And then on top of, I then also tell my tenants, don't worry about the utilities. That's all covered in the rent payment. Yeah. So my utilities add up to roughly like a couple hundred. So I think my total monthly housing payment is $1,100 total. Mm-hmm. But my tenants pay me $1,370 per month. So, and that because I have 3 different tenants, they all average around 400, maybe 450 in rent per month. So now that all sums up to 1,370. So 1,370 minus 1,100 is 270. That's how much money I'm pocketing from my housing. Mm-hmm. I'm not paying that. I'm making that in profit because I live here. Yeah. So that's the beauty of house hacking, because instead of you paying $1,100, that's the mortgage plus utilities, I'm making $270 per month. And
I want people to understand the significance of this. Like, seriously, you're making money by living there. You are making money by living there. Seriously, hear that one more time. I'll say it again. You're making money by living there. I don't have to do anything. All I do is manage them. And if you select your tenants right, it'll be a breeze. I'm telling you, it'll be like, haha, David, this is gonna be a breeze.
I swear this is so life changing because my paycheck got cut in half versus where I was working at before, and I'm still able to. I save just as much as I was saving when I was working there because I'm able to make this money from house hacking.
Yeah, and I mean that's come on now. And Marlon, he was talking about utilities and stuff. I mean he has his utilities built into the rent payment, so he doesn't really charge them for utilities. I don't have mine like that, so I charge them just the $13.45 for the rent, and I send them the utilities every month, and they send me, a portion of it to cover the electricity and the water. So I mean, I don't even pay utilities, so it's like, come on, bro. Where else can you do this, bro? Where come on now, somebody. Come on now.
I just want to reiterate. Don't cut that $300 worth of coffee that you buy. If you buy it every day, it's only equal in 300. We just cut off $1,100+ in monthly payments because we just went ahead and said, let's attack the elephant in the room instead of all the minuscule expenses.
And for me, I mean, I was paying $1,200 in rent last year before I started doing this. $1,200 a month, and now I transitioned to making $115 a month, literally by doing nothing. So, anyways, that's the primary benefit of house hacking. So if you do it right, you can even earn money, right? So that's cash flow. Additional benefits that you can get from it these are just like some benefits that come with home ownership. This is really just icing on the cake. The biggest thing that you want from it is not paying rent and reducing your housing expense. That's the primary goal. But all this other stuff, I'm going to go through some other stuff, and it's just icing on the cake. So with home ownership, one thing that you can take advantage of is being able to deduct the mortgage interest and the taxes that you pay when you do your taxes every year. So this essentially allows you to have less taxable income. And that's just a perk of home ownership. The government incentivizes home ownership by saying, hey, you can deduct whatever you paid in your mortgage interest and your taxes from your taxes. And you fill out the form every year when you do taxes. Another benefit is that just comes with home ownership is loan pay down and equity buildup. So we talked about equity last year and what it is. It's the percent of the asset. I mean, yeah, my bad.
I've been saying year two.
It's the percent of the asset that you own. So as you pay down the loan, as your tenant is paying down that loan, you're not paying it. Your tenant is paying down that mortgage for you. Every month you're gaining equity in the property. Some of that is going to principal. Some of it is going to interest. They're paying the taxes and they're paying the insurance, and you build the equity. So essentially they're just contributing money to a savings account for you every month. That's all it is. So even if some places the rent you get might not be able to cover the entire mortgage just because the market over there is so, it goes back to the price to rent ratio. It's probably more suited for renting over there. But, it's just, even if it's not able to cover all of it, it will definitely cover a majority, if not, most of it. Then that money is just going to a savings account called equity. So you're building that up every month just by living there. Another benefit that comes with home ownership and just real estate in general is you're going to benefit from appreciation and, market appreciation, natural appreciation. So every year your house, in a good market, is going to increase in value. And even if it decreases in value, so what? That's a big deal. That's not something you were trying to go for. That's icing on the cake. Appreciation is just icing on the cake. If it increases in value, that's great. If it doesn't, big deal. You still get the equity pay down and loan build up. Or the loan pay down and equity build up. And then with appreciation, there's also forced appreciation. So for me, I renovated a lot of the house just because I wanted to, get more out of the rent. So I also increased the value just by those renovations. That's called forced appreciation. And then another benefit that comes with house hacking is, and whenever you do go to qualify for that loan, you can take 75% of the additional income from the other units and count that towards your income. Because what is it? Rental income is essentially just normal income. That's why it's taxed every year. So whenever you add that income to your income, now you can qualify for a larger mortgage, and you can get a bigger property or whatever the case may be. You're more versatile, I guess, when it comes to choosing properties. You have a bigger selection to pick from because you can qualify for more. And so for example, in that example I talked about earlier with the 3 units, and you could when you're renting out the other 2 units for $1,200 each, so you can take 75% of that $2,400 that you're getting from the other units and add that towards your monthly income. So that's just a perk that they let you, kind of take advantage of, because it is essentially income, right? So why not qualify it? They just cap it out at 75%. Another good benefit of it, and this is if you're interested in real estate, this is a great way to get involved or get started with real estate. It's a great introduction to real estate. It gives you, landlording experience. It gives you practice analyzing deals. You're going to become savvy with, just terminology and the numbers. And it's just, a great way to get started. This is probably the best way to get started with real estate investment. There's no better way, because it's like training wheels with real estate. It teaches you everything, all the basics, and you also get, the real experience and all the benefits of it too. So, and one last thing that I'm gonna mention as a benefit is the ability to, if you don't want to, do long-term leases for the tenants, you can Airbnb the other parts or the other units. So, Airbnb is a very viable option, especially in, a lot of markets here in San Antonio. If I wanted, I could Airbnb the other side because I'm not too far from SeaWorld. So that's a great benefit that I have. I might even consider doing that after the tenant's lease end in a month. So it's a lot more work just because, there's more that goes with it with short-term rentals than long-term. But, it can be a lot more lucrative depending on the market. So that's definitely a great way. Those are some great benefits that aren't even like the primary goal, but they just come with it, right? So that's why house hacking is it's amazing, man.
Yeah. I just thought of a couple of things just now when you were talking about all the benefits. One thing a lot of people are going to say immediately is like, "Oh, I don't want to buy a home because it's going to tie me down." But guess what? What you're going to do when you're done living in that particular unit, or in your particular house right now? You plan on moving out, and what you're going to do with your vacant unit? You rent that out too. And what's that going to equal? Cash flow.
Yep.
So so whatever you rent out, you're already making money with while you're living there. So whatever you rent out your personal unit for, that's going to be added cash flow to your monthly income per month. So you don't have to be stranded there because that you bought that as your first primary residence. You can, like you said, with the FHA loan, you can get a new one every 2 years. Yep. So with that, you can buy one and live in it for 2 years. Once you ready to move, don't sell the property. You can just go ahead and rent out the unit you were staying in, and then that'll be cash flowing. And that can already start paying for your new place that you buy before you even get it rented out. It's already paying for your new place.
What's that, facts?
Exactly. So it starts compounding on itself. So imagine just keep on doing that for few years at a time. It's like delayed gratification. It's like do this type of stuff now, where like, especially while me and you are 22, 23 years old, we're young right now. So imagine how much cash flow we'll be getting by the time we're in our 30s and 40s if we keep doing this.
Yeah, and I kind of just want to comment on that too. That's a great point that you brought up, talking about people tying you down, because that's always, we talked about it last week, the number one thing people say when they're opposed to buying houses, especially young people. Oh, I don't want it to tie me down. But the beauty about this strategy is it's different from buying a normal house, because when people buy their forever house, they're buying it emotionally. They're not thinking logically, right? We talked about it every week. Thinking emotionally versus thinking logically. Whenever you buy a house as a house hack, you're buying it as an investment. So you're analyzing the deal as an investment property. You're not looking at it as a house that, oh, I'm going to be here, I'm going to raise my family. No,
I promise. Emotion goes out the window. The emotion just leaves at that point.
So you make your money on the buy. You're buying it as an asset. You're not buying it as a primary residence per se. It is technically, but you're not buying it that way. And that's just one of the beautiful things that come with house hacking. And I kind of want to mention too, you can do, this is something you could do every year. I know for me personally, I'm going to be getting my next one hopefully here this year. So that's the goal, one of the goals for this year. If not, that's fine, get it next year. But when I know one thing though, when I do move out of here, I'm gonna rent this side out for at least $800. And what's
that's
that?
All pocketed cash flow.
Yeah. So now that's on top of the $115 I'm already making. So now I'm making $915 a month. But
I guarantee you that's somebody's monthly check at work right now.
Yeah, and I'm making that passively as passive income. So I don't look. It's a no brainer, man. I don't want nothing, man. It's a no brainer. So,
But I just thought of one more thing though, because this is like my personal testimony, something that actually just happened. So, as a grad student in 2018, we were making a monthly salary. Well, we were getting paid monthly. So at the end of every month, we would get our paycheck all at one time. It wasn't biweekly; it was just at the very end of the month. That's something that is, I guess, is because money isn't taught in school, so they really don't teach you how to budget it. So I think that they gave it to us at the very end, so that we'll be able to pay our rent payments and all of our utilities the very next day. The first of the month is typically when rent is paid. So I think that was in place like that for that reason. But I think they just say, okay, we need to go away from that. They just need to learn how to start managing their money better. So in 2019, they transitioned us into a biweekly pay cycle. The problem is they had this thing called transition pay, and that was essentially saying we'll take whatever you were making per month last year, and we're going to give you that in halves each paycheck. So they would divide your monthly income in half, and then they would give that to you as your biweekly payment. The problem with that is that if you just did that all throughout the year, you would get 26 payments of that half of a month's check. That would equal to 13 months of payment. Yeah. And so now we're going to feel the effects of that, because they were doing that all throughout January through May. But in June, we're going to get our paychecks cut in half so it can get back on track to where it needs to be. So now if we were making 1,000 of every other week, now we'll be making 500. So if somebody's rent payment is 700, what you gonna do? It's gonna be a whole lot more difficult in order to pay your bills if you weren't saving that money ahead of time. Yeah. But this is the beauty of house hacking. I want to tie it all back in, because I've been house hacking this whole time. I won't feel the effects nearly as much, because whether I'm getting paid there or not, my mortgage and my utilities are being covered. So I'm able to still save all the money that comes in from my personal job. I'm able to still save that, even if it's less. I'm able to put that away and be able to still live the same way and not feel the effects nearly as much as somebody else might, because they've been renting and their paycheck is getting cut in half.
So, bro, I don't know how many times I can say this, man. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is so amazing. This is like incredible. The fact that that this is even possible. Like, it sounds like it's fake. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm overhyped on it, but that's fine with me.
Bro, this is something. No, it's just so life changing. So it's like, once you understand, you know how easy it is at this point, because nobody teaches you this, so nobody really understands that this is even a thing. So first thing when somebody says save money, all right, I'm gonna go out to eat less. I'm gonna get less drinks. I'm gonna go out with my friends less. But nobody ever thinks to do something as big as this. No, because nobody ever teaches that. But that's why we're here.
Definitely. We trying to, bro, we giving you a free game, man. Come on. Take advantage of this, bro. And look, house hacking is like, it can be done anywhere. In some markets, it's a lot easier than other markets. So for example, in LA, it's going to be less practical to do it with a multifamily house. I'll say it like that. Because, LA, New York, all those places where there's, rent control and all that stuff, the housing market is just ridiculous over there. It's just not feasible to buy houses over there. Even with a 3.5% down loan, you're gonna have to come out of pocket $50,000 for multifamily or something like that, which is, it's just not practical for a lot of people, and that's understandable. But that's not to say that you can't do it in those markets, though. So, I mean, in LA, it's one of the most expensive markets. San Francisco is the most expensive market in the country, but LA is probably more practical just because we actually have listeners over there. So I just want to, kind of mention this for them, for their sake. But you can do what a lot of people are doing there too, which is single family house hacking. What is exactly like Marlon is doing, right? So, and it's probably better to do it over there because in LA, with single family housing in general, in renting out the rooms, you're going to get more rent by renting out the rooms than if you are as renting out the property as a whole, right? Because there's just a premium for, a place to stay. So that's built into, renting out by the room. So you're going to get a little bit more by that. And especially in LA, you can probably rent out rooms over there for $1,200. So you get a 4-bedroom house over there and you rent out 3 rooms, That's what you're making $3,600 just from renting out the rooms. Mortgage might be $4,000, but what? You only coming out of pocket $400. I bet you nobody in LA is paying $400 in rent.
That reminds me of opportunity cost. I want to just give a quick point on that. Most people are going to feel like, oh, if I can't pay off my entire mortgage or all of my utilities and mortgage, I don't want to do it. But even if you're paying just $400 instead of the full $4,000, you're still saving a whole lot of money. You're saving $3,600 by doing this per month instead of doing nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great point, because I know for me, I was being greedy when I was trying to get. I was like, no. I'm in San Antonio. I can get a house where I can live for free or make money. So I mean, it's dependent on the market. In LA, you're gonna be hard pressed to, but in San Antonio or something like that, it's gonna be a lot easier. So, and another thing too with single family houses, and especially in LA, you're gonna have a much better appreciation. They appreciate a lot better than multifamily houses. So you're gonna gain a lot more equity just naturally over there. Also, it's gonna be more favorable to loans, because lenders typically would prefer lending on a single family house because it's a lot safer. There's more exit strategies on their end. So it's a lot safer, a loan for them than if it was a multifamily property. That's just naturally how it goes. It doesn't matter where you are. And that's just one of the things that comes with single family houses, one of the benefits. Another thing that a lot of people do, it's kind of what I'm doing too. I mean, another way to do it is buying a single family house with a back house. So a back house is just a house in the back, or a converted garage where you have essentially a kitchen, a living room, and a bathroom, and a bedroom space all in one space. That's something really popular over there in California and in LA. A lot of people just rent out the back for $1,200 or whatever, or $1,500, and use that as just additional income to pay off their mortgage. So that's another viable option that you could do. And this is probably because one thing I've heard a lot with the strategy is it's only good for younger people and people that are it's single, and I've heard a whole bunch of things, and that's true. I'm not gonna sit here and dispute that, because it is a lot tougher for people, especially with families. But one thing that a lot of people do. Because there are people with families that house hack, and they call it luxurious house hacking. So that was another term coined by someone on BiggerPockets. That's essentially where you have a single family house and you build an accessory dwelling unit or a back house in the back, and it has like a kitchenette, a living room, bathroom, and it's just like you put a separate entrance for it through the side gate, and it's just kind of its own little unit. Obviously, the property needs to be zoned for the correct thing to be able to do that, but it's kind of its own little unit, and you just allow someone to live back there. They pay you rent every month, and you use that to cover your mortgage. It's completely separate from your house, so your family, you don't ever see them. It's completely separate. That's just another thing that it's possible. If you really want to do it, you're gonna do it. If you have a family, that's something that you could do. So that's one of the things that those are some other viable ways to do it. There's a lot of other crazier ways to do it too. I've heard people, I've heard living room hacking, people buying houses, living in the living room and renting out all the rooms. That's insane. There's a bunch of ways to kind of, take advantage of this kind of stuff. It's not going to be like this. I promise it won't be like this forever. It won't be like this forever. So you got to strike while the iron's hot. Take advantage.
Yep. So this is like he was just saying, there's just many different ways to go about doing this. There's no one set way, but find a way that works for you. He found a converted garage and was able to live in that one separate from his tenants. So he don't even have to see them throughout the day. Yeah. I couldn't find that, but I don't want that to discourage me. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to find 4-bedroom house. I'm going to just live in one bedroom right after the 3. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, like I'm only here by myself for 2 years, and I'm out of here after that. So yeah. Just make that money for those 2 years and keep it to moving. Like, you don't have to be living luxuriously every single moment of your life. You can, and matter of fact, you're not even living luxurious like you think you are, because you just keep on losing money. So now guess what you got to keep doing? Go back to work every day and just keep on spending all your money that you just earned on that high rent payment or that high mortgage payment that you have.
Far too often, people try to cut expenses in areas that will hardly make a dent in their finances. Yeah, it's always good to reduce your spending anywhere you can, especially in areas you're spending excessively. But if we're talking cutting $100 a month from an aspect that actually adds value to your life, like happy hour with friends, they may be approaching it from the wrong perspective. Like Marlon said, why not address the elephant in the room, your housing expense? If someone told you that you could live for free or even get paid just to live, wouldn't you be jumping at that opportunity? You heard what I just said? Live for free? Living for free? Isn't that crazy? Or maybe that's only me and I'm just tripping. House hacking allows you to take advantage of the benefits of home ownership and renting. It's the best of both worlds. And remember, this isn't a normal house you're purchasing because you thought the front porch was cute or the backyard is big enough for Fido to run around. You're purchasing an asset that can prove to be lucrative for you even years after moving out. What more can you really ask for from a house you're living in? At this point, if you're still unsure whether this is the right move for you, especially if you're a young recent college graduate, just know this. Things won't always be this easy. In the future, it may not be this easy to qualify for an FHA loan and only put 3.5% down on a multifamily property. There'll always be something to complain about or see as a reason not to take action. So it's important to strike when the iron is hot. And right now, that thing is on fire.
But I do want to transition now. So with everything that you do, there's always going to be some cons, and there's always going to be naysayers that say, "Oh, what about this or what about that?" So let's point a few of those out as well. So a few downsides is, of course, the big one. You have to manage tenants now. This is your first landlord experience. So the way to mitigate this right off the bat is to have a good screening system. You need to understand how to vet, like terms that's used like screening, vet. Basically, you need to do like background checks on the potential tenants, understand who you're renting to. You don't want to be renting anybody with prior evictions, especially because if they were evicted before, or that means when times get tough, they don't pay you. It's gonna be when those hard times come, it might be like, it's either buy food or pay this guy for the rent. I don't know. So sorry, man, you might have to wait this week or this month. So that's why you need to find somebody who's responsible that will take care of your properties just as you would. Yeah. And that way you can mitigate the problems with managing tenants that way.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna add real quick, just because the screening tenants part is very important, because the most important thing about this is you do not want it to be a job. You're buying this as a passive investment. You just need a place to live, but you don't want to pay your rent. Perfectly fine, but you don't want it to be a job. So the screening is very important, because the minute that you get a tenant in here that is, now, like, especially if you have a single family house and you're renting out to roommates and you're living with someone now that's messy or dirty or doing all kinds of crazy stuff, then now it becomes a job. Now if someone don't want to pay you rent, now it's a job. Now you got to go over there and kind of handle stuff, and you don't want that. So screening is very important, and we're going to get into that in a later episode when we start talking more about real estate, but that's something that is very, very, very key.
Indeed. Yep. So I just want to say another one, just add on to the tenants part. You have to have those roommates. So there are some instances, such as with Alex, where he doesn't really physically see his roommates, but he's living like a wall away from the other people who live in his house. So that's something that just comes with the territory. It's that delayed gratification piece that I was talking about. Live like no one else will right now, so later you can live like no one else can. That's a big motto that I go by, just because I know that I'm delaying my self-gratification now for a much higher gain later on. And if people could grasp that concept, they will infinitely put themselves ahead of other people as far as their finances go, so that their later parts of their life will be so much more luxurious because of that.
Yeah, and just to comment on that too, for me, I knew I wasn't gonna go back to having roommates after college. No, that was the last time I was gonna have roommates. So, but it's always, if you do have to do it, then that's fine. I mean, it's no different than whenever you were in college, right? What's the difference? You just living like you was in college, except now you're getting paid for it. So another thing too that I think is I wouldn't necessarily call it a downside, but it is something to consider. You have to have some sort of cash reserves in somewhere, some sort of savings account or something. Have some cash on the side, because once you have a tenant and something breaks, look, they don't care if you don't have the money. They just want the problem fixed. So you better have the money to get it fixed. Because I know for me personally, whenever I got mine, man, it was. I'm not gonna even say this because I don't want to scare no one, but I did have some stuff that I needed to get fixed. Water heater went out, had to get that fixed. That was a couple, I had to shell out money for that. Electrical panel, had to get that replaced, had to shell out money for that. So it's like you gotta have some money in reserves, just because if something happens, you gotta be able to get it fixed because you're a landlord. It's your responsibility. That goes back to, owning versus renting. Now, when you're owning, and now you're a landlord. So now you have to be able to, take care of what you got to take care of. So, but in reality, though, all these things that we just talked about, this is like seriously a small price to pay for living for free or making money to just live somewhere. Like, this is minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Like, for me, look, because I said last year I was living in the apartment, $1,200, and I was probably about 5 minutes away from my job. 5 minutes away. And now it takes me almost an hour to get to work in the morning because of traffic too. But what is that? It's nothing. It's nothing that's like, in the grand scheme of things, I would drive I would drive 2 hours to get to work if someone told me, hey, drive 2 hours to get to work and you don't have to pay no rent, or we'll pay you just to live here. Oh, where do I sign up? So, bro, it's like I don't know, man. It goes back to
opportunity costs again for me.
Exactly.
I'm thinking because you said the opportunity cost is what am I giving up to gain something else? Yeah. I'm giving up my close commute to work in order to not pay rent, bro. I'm not paying $1,200 in rent payment just so I have a longer commute to work. Mm-hmm. That commute to work may equate to more gas that you're paying per month, but I don't know how much you pay per week in gas, but I'm assuming that it's
about
probably $20, and that's per week.
Yes,
multiply that by for $80 a month. So I'm paying $80 a month in gas, and I'm living for free.
Come on, man. Like I said, where do I sign up? Come on. It's a no-brainer, man. But yeah, man, it's just like Marlon was saying. You just live like no one now so that you can live like no one later, right? You delay your gratifications. I'm doing all this right now. I'm 22 years old, man. I got this property when I was 21. This is how I'm about to live my whole 20s. I'm going to do this every year because this is essentially an investment vehicle for me, a real estate investment vehicle. I'm going to do this every year and get me a free property or a low money down property every year. Easy. Let's say I do this till I'm 30 and I'm going to have 7 of them just by doing that. And that's going to be, oh my gosh, come on now. So that's, but it goes back to your goals, right? It all goes back to your goals. What is your goal? And I mentioned it in last episode, but you have to kind of find a way to align your living situation with your goals. How does your living situation align with your goals? For me, I'm gonna mention this. All the topics that we, kind of talk about, we want to provide a perspective for how people can approach this in regards to achieving financial freedom, because that's what we're doing. So that's what my goal is, right? My goal is to be financially free by 28. So I know I need to align my living situation to match that goal. I can't be paying $1,200 a month in rent because that's not going to help me reach that goal. I'm throwing away $14,000 a year, right? So I know I need to reduce my living expense so I can have more money to aggressively invest in real estate before I hit 28, because I need those assets that are going to, kind of provide me that passive income to be financially free. And this is just another way to acquire those assets. Like I said, I'm doing this every year. I'll have 7 of them just by the time I'm 30. Just doing this once every year. Seriously. And look, even if you don't want to invest in real estate or you don't want to be financially free, that's fine. I promise you though, this is the single best financial decision you will ever make in your life. I promise. Because imagine taking all the money from rent that you pay every year and you invest it all. So, like I said, I was paying $1,200 per month in rent before I did this. So that's $14,000 per year. $14,400 per year. Mm-hmm. So if I do this until I'm 30, that's $114,000 that I will now earn. And I'm going to take all that money and invest it in assets that are going to generate passive income for me so that in my 30s, I can allow these assets that I invested in my 20s to pay for all my expenses. And all I did was live there. I didn't even do anything. I just lived there.
Man,
so
you're preaching. Keep going. Keep going.
But I'm passionate about this because it's so powerful, man. I'm telling you. So, I mean, it's so and look, this is in addition to the properties that I'm investing in right now. Every year I'm flipping properties and I'm buying rental properties on the side. So I'm just acquiring these just by living there, in addition to the properties I'm acquiring on the side. Come on, man. I'm gonna drop the mic, man. This is just it's so incredible, the power of real estate, man. I love this stuff, and this is why I always talk about how much I love real estate. If you know me and you talk to me, you know I love real estate. I can talk about real estate all day. So, I mean,
I just got something, bro. So, it reminds me again about delayed gratification, because you put away all this money, the money that you're saving from your rent now is able to be put away. So, just like for me, even though I lost, even though I don't have the job that I had last year, I probably was making twice what I'm making right now. Guess what? I'm still able to save $1,000+ a month. Mm-hmm. From that job and put it away into my savings for future investments. Yep. Now, this is one big thing I wanted to say. Don't spend that money on something like shoes and food. Like, just because you're saving it from housing don't mean you need to put it to the other expenses that you've been already putting it to. That's one thing that's problematic with people, is that when they start when they see more money, they just be like, oh, I had nothing to do with this, so let me just go spend it on their money. Their expenses go up because they have more money. Don't do that.
And they call that the income creep.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, when you get a raise at work, people go and get a raise at work, and they take that extra money and like, oh, I got extra money now. I can get a new car. Mm-hmm. I can go get this brand new TV. I can go finance this. You pretty much go acquire more liabilities, right? So what you're supposed to do is take that money and pay yourself with that extra money, and you continue to live on what you were already earning, right?
Exactly.
So that's how you're supposed to handle that.
Yeah. So it's like, don't start buying the materialistic things quite yet. Yes, you're saving money, but okay, well, if you plan on really being financially free and like setting yourself miles ahead of anybody else, you need to save that money that you're making, or the extra money that you're saving, you need to be putting that toward future investments. So understand this: the people who are truly wealthy, they were buying their luxuries last. The problem with the poor and middle class is that they always tend to buy their luxuries first. One thing I've heard, I think Grant Cardone said, the poor middle class buy memories. So they buy something that's like expensive, and now they look back at, I remember when I bought that nice car. Whew, it cost me a whole lot, but I like it. It looks nice. Yeah. So people buy the big houses, the new cars, diamonds, jewelry. They want to look rich, but they're truly not rich. They just look like it. So the truly wealthy, once they're at that level, they're like, okay, I've done all the delayed gratification that I need to. I have assets that are generating me passive income monthly. Now I can go ahead and start buying the luxuries that I've afforded myself the opportunity to buy. Mm-hmm. So that's why one thing I always live by: grind in your 20s. Grind in your 20s so that later in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you can live lavishly. You don't have to. This is not delaying until 50s, 60s, 70s. That's what the W-2 worker does. The rat racer. The day over here thinking, okay, I'm about to work for the next 40 years from 20 to 60, 65. Fought the good hard race. I can go ahead. I fought the hard fight. I can enjoy the fruits of my labor. But why wait that long? You don't have to wait this long if you were delaying your gratification right early on. Yeah. So go ahead, bro. I'm done.
Oh, my bad.
I'm done, man. I can't say enough about it though.
I just wanted to mention, bro. Like, dude. Like I said, even if you only house hack, you do it every year. You're doing that passively. So in your 20s, I mean, it just goes back to what he was saying. In your 20s, you buy the assets in your 20s, and in your 30s now you can be stupid and you can buy the stuff that you shouldn't be buying right now. You can go buy the houses and the cars and the vacations and all that stuff. I can do that in my 30s. I guarantee you I will. Exactly. I promise you I will. So, I mean, listen to what Grant Cardone said about this.
So this is what wealthy people do, man. I changed this when I was 30 years old. This is what I started doing. Okay, networking. All my money went to networking, charity events, connections, investing, and business. I don't lose money, period. I don't buy garbage. I don't buy cars. You see me rolling that big black Rolls. You see me buying one for my wife. But you didn't see what I did to get here, dude. I'm in this column now. I can do anything I want. I didn't buy luxury early, okay? And I ain't buying it now. My businesses are buying the luxury you see me blowing money on. I can be stupid now. Once you create enough wealth, you can be a dumbass. See, wealthy people spend money on the expansion, and poor people spend money on memories.
So yeah, I mean, look, we probably plug Grant Cardone too much now, but this dude, he is living. I mean, the way that I'm preaching, like this dude, he has a $300 million net worth. So I'm gonna listen to what he's saying, right? He's essentially giving you the blueprint on how to achieve generational wealth at an early age. So it's simple, really, when it comes down to it. It's simple. It's just delaying gratification, like Marlon talked about, man. Just do that for a little bit. I promise. It sounds bad, especially because with social media these days, you're seeing everybody in their 20s, out on vacation and, buying cars. And I'm going to do me, they're going to do them. So you just got to make that choice.
I know. I just want to talk to all the people who just graduated and they just feel like, man, I just served this 22-year sentence at school. Like I've been at school since I was 4 years old. I guess 18 years. 18-year sentence, 4 to 22. I've done all that. Now I deserve this. I deserve that. No, you deserve to be financially free. You deserve to be able to live your best life in a very near future. Just delay just a tad bit longer so you can set yourself up. Your future self will be so happy that you said, okay, I'm going to sacrifice these few years right now so that the next many years will be so much better because of it. And that's what we're doing here. So just wait till we hit like 30, 35 years old. You're going to see what we're talking about.
Man, I'm telling you better hop on the train now. I'm telling you, all aboard.
In 10 years, we're all going to look back and examine the choices we make today. And one of two things will happen. We'll either be proud of our current selves or we will question what we were doing. The financial choices you make over the next 10 years of your life will either vault you ahead of your contemporaries or leave you stuck in the pack, especially if you're a young recent college graduate. Are you going to choose to finance that brand new $30,000 car or stick with the one you've been driving just a little while longer so you can use that money to invest in assets? Are you going to choose to live above your means and rent an apartment that forces you to live paycheck to paycheck? Or are you going to choose to purchase a property to live in, rent out the other portions of it, live for free, and build wealth? Like I always say, I'm not patronizing anyone's choices. To each their own. You do you, and I'm gonna do me. But just know, every decision you make comes with an opportunity cost. Each time you purchase a liability instead of an asset, you're setting yourself back financially. For example, I recently took a trip to Los Angeles and spent about $2,000. By doing this, I chose to forego the potential return and the value I would have gotten from investing that money for the value that I received from having fun with friends. Theoretically, that decision set me back an unknown amount of time from reaching my financial goals. But that was a conscious decision I made going into it because I know that house hacking affords me the ability to do that with no financial strain whatsoever, and it's also something I don't do often. So I encourage you to consider delaying gratification today. This goes for everyone. Your future self is going to thank you. Live like no one now so you can live like no one later.
So yeah, we kind of want to finish this podcast like we try to do every week with a little Q&A session. If you have any questions you want us to answer, just hit us up on Twitter at The Monopolizers or on IG at Money Monopolizers. We'll be sure to get you an answer, or if not, we'll definitely try to find someone that can answer your question and get an answer that way. But Marlon, you want to start off with the first question?
Yep. So the first person asks, what books would you recommend to get started if I'm not just talking about, if I'm not interested in investing in real estate? Okay. So if you're not interested in real estate alone, I would say still the best books to read just to get started with the mindset and understanding how to better handle your finances are the big one, Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you read that one first, your whole mindset will be changed and you will be encouraged to just go do a whole lot of different things that you normally wouldn't, like understanding how to build assets instead of just purchasing liabilities and more expenses. The second one is Think and Grow Rich. Oh, by the way, Rich Dad Poor Dad is authored by Robert Kiyosaki, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich is the next one. That's written by Napoleon Hill. This is also another mindset book. It's telling you the power of your mind and the power that it has to change your perception on life and how you go about your daily walk of life, basically. Mm-hmm. So if you can think it, you can achieve it. Is basically the entire mantra of what they're talking about in that book. And that's why I'm so big on dream big, think big, and little things like that, because I know the power of the mind. If you can think it, you can achieve it. That's one thing that I took away from that book.
Facts.
And the last one is Set for Life by Scott Trench. Scott Trench is also a member of Bigger Pockets. And in this book, he tells you, he's really talking to somebody who just graduated college and is now entering the corporate America world, where they have a W-2 income and they're just entering the rat race for the first time. He tells you about how to put yourself financially in a great position to where you won't have to be in that same situation 30, 40 years from now. You'll be able to delay your gratification. That's what he talks about, the same thing we're talking about, delaying gratification now so that later on you set yourself up for a much higher upside than what normally people would actually amount to.
Yeah.
You have any books in specific that you recommend to?
One book that I just want to comment and just say, it's not even like a finance book or nothing. It's just more of a, I guess a personal development book. It's called Never Split the Difference. And this book is written by Chris Voss. Chris Voss, he's a former FBI negotiator, right? So this book is essentially about negotiation and communication. So communication is probably the most important aspect of anything in business itself, is knowing how to communicate with people. Because I'm a firm believer that if you can communicate well with people, you will unequivocally be able to get anything you want in your life, and you will inadvertently become a master manipulator. I promise. It's just because there's so many tricks to communication that are like, so many people don't even realize. It's kind of like you essentially play mind tricks on people. And it sounds bad to say, but I promise in business, it's going to give you the upper hand in so many situations, and even just in life in general. Great book to read. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So the next question, we had another question. We're only going to do two. Another question we had was based off of last week's episode. So they asked, what are the key indicators such as price to rent ratio that you guys look at every day to know how the market is doing or to decide where to look for opportunities? So this is more of a real estate related question. We talked about last week I talked about in the episode about price to rent ratio and kind of, what that is. And, it's kind of a metric that's used to indicate whether it's more economically feasible to buy or rent in a market. Typically, as far as, real estate investments go, what we really look for our opportunities primarily, where people like to buy. So the biggest thing in real estate is location, right? So of everything in real estate, you can't change the location of a property. That's the one thing that's the control variable. You cannot change that. So location is the most important thing. Only buy things in certain areas, just because, those areas tend to be number one where people buy, and also because the price range in those areas are typically where people are looking. So in real estate, people tend to look. There's a majority of the buyers are going to be in a certain price range. So for the flip that we just flipped, or that we were just finishing up here in San Antonio, we was in a perfect price range for us. That's why we got over 10 plus offers and accepted one that was $10,000 above asking price, because it was a very nice home that we put together in an area that's desirable and at a price range that a majority of people are looking. So it was a move-in ready, updated house for $165,000. People are gonna act on that because it's not out there. So that's primarily what we're looking for. That's a very safe investment. Once you start trying to look at stuff in the $500,000, $300,000, or even $300,000 price range, it's gonna be a lot tougher to kind of get that sold. That's
it's in possible. Texas. Let's say that's in Texas, because 300,000 in Seattle or something, like in LA, they like, bro, that's a little rundown shack.
Hey,
so
my bad.
It just depends on the area that you're in.
Yeah, it's very market specific, but I will say though, no matter where you are, look at the location and look at the ARV where people are. We'll get into that in a later episode, but essentially it's where people are buying, the price range people are buying at. Stay in that bell curve of, the 95 percentile of where people are buying. So that's really the best place opportunities are going to be. So that's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be releasing every Thursday and will be available on all platforms except SoundCloud now. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today. If you did, we really appreciate it if you rated us and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. Seriously, it helps us a lot. Like I was saying earlier, it helps us to be able to reach a larger audience and help more people and get this message out there. That's definitely what we're trying to do with this. So if you just would leave a simple, a rating, even if you think it was well, I'm not going to tell you to go rate it 1 star, but just leave a rating for us, please. We'd appreciate it. But yeah, you can find out more info about us on Twitter at The Monopolizers, or on Instagram at Money Monopolizers, or you can hit us up on our personal social media pages. But until then, we out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.